Malaria is a disease that is caused by a parasite called Plasmodium, and there are different species of Plasmodium that infect humans. There's 5 different species that infect humans. The other aspect of malaria is it's transmitted by mosquitoes. It's passed from one person to another by mosquitoes that bite on one infected person. Parasite develops in the mosquito, and then it passes to another person when the mosquito bites that next person.
Malaria is a large issue. Worldwide, there are 219 million clinical cases. This map displays how malaria affects all of the areas of the world, which is why the need for a vaccine is so great. While there are now some preventions for malaria, mosquito nets, insect repellents, and medicine, these cannot fully eradicate malaria alone.
The DNA of the parasite, through the form of sporozoites, enters the liver cells where it invades. The sporozoites remain in the liver cells where they can grow and divide into tens of thousands of merozoites in the liver cell. The merozoites then exit the liver cells and travel the bloodstream. In the bloodstream, the merozoites invade red blood cells and replicate, and create more copies of themselves. All of these infected blood cells can lead to illness if they are not treated ahead of time. Some of the merozoite-infected red blood cells form male and female ganthocytes, which are sexual forms of the malaria parasite. Another mosquito can then eat these ganthocytes if they bite the human infected with them. Then the ganthocytes burst inside of the mosquito and create mature gametes. The male and female gametes fuse together to form diploid zygotes in the mosquito. The diploid zygotes develop into unguents, which penetrate the mosquito's stomach to form oocytes in the lining. The oocytes grow and divide in the mosquito and form the haploid form of the parasite, beginning the cycle of malaria and infection all over again.
Okay.
All right.
What is it like working with patients in Africa?
So it's a very wonderful experience. So right now we work with just adults, but they bring their families to the clinic as well, so we get to see the children and grandparents and etc. They're we're very appreciative of their participation, because if you think about it, if they didn't participate, we could never do these type of studies to eventually get a vaccine. So our team there works with them to explain studies, because we do mostly studies that are very early in research. So we don't know if it's going to work or not, and we don't even know if it's safe or not. That's the whole point. So to get people to participate in the areas where we hope these vaccines are going to get deployed in the early phases is really important. Dr. Sisko might talk to you about this a little bit, but each country is a little different in working in Africa. In Mali, it's a very community-based, where they have chiefs that are the head of the village or the community. So they do something called community consent. So before coming to talk to each individual participant, they actually go out and talk to the community leaders. So usually it's the elders of the community, and then the chief as well, and tell them all about the study, tell them about the possible benefits, the possible risks, what the study is going to look like, how it's going to impact the community. And then it's up to the elders to let us know, can we do the study or not? Because the thing is, if they say, no, I don't think this is a good idea, no one will actually show up in your clinic to participate. So you really have to get the support of the elders and the chief before even getting down to the individual consents.
The symptoms of malaria are extensive and can even be fatal. These include shaking chills, high fever, sweating, headaches, vomiting, and diarrhea. The signs and symptoms usually begin within a few weeks after a person is bitten by an infected mosquito.
And if the parasite is always rapidly evolving, how will we find a vaccine? Or in other words, how does a vaccine close the gap for eradicating malaria?
That's a good question. The evidence is that people naturally become immune to the malaria parasite. If you go to communities that are affected by malaria, you'll see that adults handle the infection or limit the infection much better than young children. And so that indicates that they've developed immunity that can control the parasite. So there's already evidence naturally that people can develop immunity, and that means that you could make a vaccine. What doesn't happen is people don't usually develop immunity that completely blocks the infection, but we have We have evidence that it's possible to make those. We just don't yet have the capability or the design of the vaccines right that will induce that kind of immunity.
Here are the labs at the NIAID satellite office. All the rooms are secured with a double set of doors and specialized to a specific temperature depending on the species of mosquito. The mosquitoes are stored in labeled jars covered with netting.
There's three really kind of targeted types of vaccines for malaria. There's one that's called pre-erythrocytic, or liver stage, or disease preventing, infection preventing. There's blood stage vaccines, which are vaccines to prevent you from getting severely sick or dying, but they don't prevent you from getting infected. And then there's transmission blocking vaccines, which doesn't prevent malaria in the individual, but prevents the mosquito from transmitting the infection to the rest of the community from you. So it's an elimination type vaccine. So you want to, you have low cases of malaria in a certain population. You just can't get rid of it with your bed nets, with your indoor spraying, with your other kind of preventative. And you want to try to deploy a vaccine that would eliminate it from the community. That's what a transmission blocking vaccine is really trying to do. So the first one, the pre-erythrocytic vaccine, is looking to immunize the individual and get enough of an immune response that when a mosquito bites you that's infected with malaria, you don't become infected with malaria. Meaning it stops the parasite in your liver or before, so you don't get sick, you don't get any symptoms, and when people check your blood, they can't see parasites. So that's a pre-erythrocytic vaccine. If that works well, then you also don't transmit, right? Because if you don't become infected, then you don't transmit to others. So it benefits you and it benefits the community. Blood stage vaccines don't prevent you from getting sick necessarily. They try to prevent you from getting severely sick or from dying. They won't prevent necessarily transmission either. So the parasite, bites you in your skin, goes to your lymph nodes, and then within an hour it's in your liver. The blood stage one would allow it to go through all the liver stages, come out in the blood, and then decrease your parasite counts in such a manner that you don't get too sick, and maybe even clear it from your blood eventually. We only do liver stage, and then the transmission blocking one is one in which you get fully infected. We vaccinate, so you have antibodies that are specific for the stages of the parasite in the mosquito. And then when a new mosquito comes and bites you, when you're infected with malaria and have it in your blood, when the mosquito life cycle is going on, it takes up your antibodies too with the parasite, and it stops in the mosquitoes, and then the mosquito can't transmit. So if you get enough people vaccinated and enough coverage in a community, and you get through your first round of people getting sick with malaria, and then it works and doesn't transmit, you'd expect malaria to go away. And that's a transmission blocking vaccine.